Right now, as you're watching this, there's a good chance sugar is moving through your body. Maybe it was your morning coffee. Maybe it was that healthy granola bar. Maybe it was something you didn't even think of as sweet. And in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what that sugar is doing, not in some vague, hand-wavy way, but step by step, organ by organ, from the second it hits your tongue to the damage it can quietly cause years down the line. And I'll be honest with you up front, some of this is going to be uncomfortable, because sugar doesn't just affect your waistline. It touches your brain, your heart, your liver, your skin, your mood, even how fast you age. By the end of this video, you're going to look at that next sweet bite completely differently, but stick with me, because I'm not just here to scare you. Near the end, I'll show you what actually happens when you cut back and how fast your body starts to heal. That part might surprise you the most. So let's start at the very beginning. Let's follow a single can of soda through your body, minute by minute. The moment sugar touches your tongue, the story begins. Your taste buds light up, and they send a signal straight to your brain, specifically to the reward system, the same region that responds to things your body considers deeply important for survival. Your brain releases dopamine, the feel-good chemical. This is the little rush of pleasure you get in that first sip. And here's the thing your brain doesn't know. It can't tell the difference between the sugar in a piece of fruit that took effort to find and the sugar in a soda that took 2 seconds to open. To your brain, sweetness has always meant, this is valuable, get more of it. That instinct kept your ancestors alive. Today, it's being used against you. Now the sugar heads down to your stomach, and within minutes, it arrives in your small intestine, where it gets broken down and absorbed into your bloodstream. And this is where the first real event happens. Your blood sugar starts to climb. Fast. Picture your bloodstream like a set of highways running through your entire body. Normally, the amount of sugar in that blood is kept in a very tight, careful range. But when you drink that soda, it's like a dump truck just unloaded a mountain of sugar onto the highway all at once. Your blood sugar spikes, and your body treats this spike as a small emergency because too much sugar in the blood is actually toxic over time, so your pancreas gets the alarm. And it responds by pumping out a hormone you've definitely heard of, insulin. Insulin is like a fleet of delivery workers. Its job is to grab all that excess sugar off the highway and shove it into your cells, where it can be used for energy. For a healthy person, doing this once in a while is no big deal. The system works. Blood sugar goes up, insulin brings it back down, life goes on. But here's where it starts getting interesting, and where most people have no idea what's really going on. That massive spike of insulin doesn't stop precisely when your blood sugar is back to normal. It often overshoots. So, about an hour, maybe 2 hours after that sugary drink, your blood sugar doesn't just come back down to normal, it can drop below where it started. And suddenly you feel it. That crash. The 3 p.m. slump. You're tired, you're foggy, you're irritable, and this is the cruel part, you're craving more sugar. Because your brain, sensing that low blood sugar, is now screaming for a quick fix. So you reach for another snack, another coffee, another something sweet. And the whole cycle starts again. That, right there, is the loop. Spike, crash, crave, repeat. It's not a lack of willpower, it's chemistry. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. But let's keep following the sugar. Because so far, we've only talked about the sugar your cells actually used. What happens to the rest of it? Because you almost never burn all of it right away. And this is where one organ takes center stage, an organ most people never think about when they think about sugar. Your liver. Now here's something crucial that almost nobody understands. Table sugar and the high fructose corn syrup in most processed foods is made of 2 different parts. One part is glucose, which almost every cell in your body can use for energy. But the other part is fructose. And fructose is a completely different animal, because fructose can really only be processed in one place, your liver. So while glucose gets spread out across your whole body, all that fructose funnels straight to this one organ, like traffic from an entire city forced onto a single narrow bridge. In small amounts, like the fructose you'd get from eating a whole apple, wrapped in fiber and water, your liver handles it just fine. But we are not talking about apples anymore. We're talking about sodas, candy, pastries, sauces, and dozens of hidden sources hitting your liver day after day after day. And when your liver gets overwhelmed with more fructose than it can use, it does something clever and, long-term, kind of dangerous. It converts that excess sugar into fat. Some of that fat gets shipped out into your bloodstream, which starts to affect your cholesterol and your heart, and we'll get to that. But some of that fat stays right there, inside the liver itself. And over months and years of this, that fat builds up. This is a real condition, and it's becoming shockingly common, even in people who barely drink any alcohol. It's called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Your liver, an organ that's supposed to be a lean, hard-working filter, slowly becomes marbled with fat, like a steak. And a fatty liver doesn't work as well. It struggles to do its hundreds of other jobs, and it can quietly progress toward inflammation and scarring over time, often with zero obvious symptoms until real damage is done. All from something you drank that no doctor tested you for, that tasted like nothing more than a sweet treat. Now I want you to remember that word, insulin, because we're about to talk about the single most important long-term effect of eating too much sugar, and it all comes back to insulin. Think back to those delivery workers, shoving sugar into your cells. Now imagine you force them to do that job over and over and over, every single day, multiple times a day, for years. What happens? Your cells start to get tired of listening. They stop responding as well to insulin's knock on the door. It's like someone banging on your door so often that eventually you just stop answering. This is called insulin resistance. And it is the quiet root of an enormous amount of modern disease. Because when your cells stop responding to insulin, your blood sugar stays high. So your pancreas panics and makes even more insulin to force the message through. Now you've got high blood sugar and sky-high insulin, both circulating through your body, both causing damage. Your pancreas is working overtime, straining harder every year. And here's the terrifying part. This can go on for years, even a decade or more, with no obvious symptoms. You feel basically fine. But under the surface, the system is breaking down. Until one day, your exhausted pancreas simply can't keep up anymore. It can't make enough insulin to overcome the resistance. And your blood sugar climbs and stays climbing. And that is the moment a doctor looks at you and says the words, type 2 diabetes. That diagnosis isn't a bolt from the blue. It's the final chapter of a story that started years earlier, with thousands of small sugar spikes, each one seeming harmless on its own. And type 2 diabetes isn't just about needing to watch your sugar. It dramatically raises your risk of heart disease, kidney failure, blindness, nerve damage, and losing circulation in your limbs. This is one of the leading drivers of serious illness in the modern world. And it is deeply, deeply connected to what we eat. Now stay with me, because I promised you this affects your whole body, and I meant it. Let's talk about your heart. Remember that fat your liver made from all the excess fructose? A lot of it gets released into your bloodstream as a type of fat called triglycerides. High triglycerides are a well-established risk factor for heart disease, but sugar's assault on your heart goes further than that. All that excess sugar and insulin drives up inflammation throughout your body, and chronic inflammation is like a slow, invisible fire smoldering inside your blood vessels. Picture the inside of your arteries as smooth, clean pipes that blood flows through easily. Now imagine that constant inflammation making the walls of those pipes rough, irritated, and damaged. That damage becomes a landing spot for plaque to build up. Over the years, your arteries narrow and stiffen, your blood pressure creeps up. Your heart has to work harder to push blood through narrower, stiffer vessels. And the risk of a heart attack or a stroke climbs the two things that, together, are among the leading causes of death on Earth. For a long time, we blamed dietary fat for all of this. But mounting evidence points a very firm finger at sugar as a major, independent player in heart disease. It was, in many ways, hiding in plain sight. Okay, take a breath. Because now we're going to go somewhere you might not expect. We're going back up to your brain, and this time, we're talking about something more than dopamine. Your brain is an incredibly hungry organ. It runs on glucose, and it uses a huge share of your daily energy. So you might think, great, sugar is brain food, right? Not so fast. The problem, again, is the roller coaster. Those constant spikes and crashes don't just make you tired over time. They're linked to problems with focus, memory, and mood. When your blood sugar is swinging wildly, your brain isn't getting a steady, reliable fuel supply. It's lurching between too much and too little. And it goes deeper. That same insulin resistance we talked about, your brain has insulin receptors too. And when your brain becomes resistant to insulin, its cells can struggle to get the energy they need to function properly. Researchers have found this connection so striking that some have started referring to Alzheimer's disease, informally, as type 3 diabetes because of how tightly disrupted insulin signaling in the brain appears to be linked to that kind of cognitive decline. Now, to be fair and accurate, Alzheimer's is complex, and sugar is not the whole story. But the emerging link between chronic high blood sugar and long-term brain health is real, and it's one more reason to take this seriously. And let's talk about mood, because you feel this one every single day, even if you don't realize it. That spike and crash cycle is an emotional roller coaster too. The crash doesn't just make you tired, it can make you anxious, irritable, and low. And there's growing research connecting diets very high in sugar with higher rates of depression. Part of that may be the blood sugar swings, part of it may be the inflammation, and part of it may be the effect on your gut, which, believe it or not, talks directly to your brain. So if you've ever felt strangely down or on edge a couple hours after a sugary binge, that wasn't in your head. Well, actually, it was in your head. It was in your brain chemistry, and it was real. Now, let's go somewhere you can actually see the effects of sugar, your skin. Because yes, sugar shows up on your face. There's a process with a fittingly ugly name, glycation. Here's what it means in plain English. When you have a lot of sugar floating around in your bloodstream, those sugar molecules start sticking to proteins in your body. And two of the most important proteins for youthful skin are collagen and elastin, the fibers that keep your skin firm, plump, and springy. When sugar glycates them, it's like taking those flexible, bouncy fibers and making them stiff and brittle. The technical term for the damaged molecules that result is, I'm not kidding, advanced glycation end products, which conveniently spells AGEs, as in they age you. The result over time is skin that sags earlier, wrinkles more, and loses that bounce-back quality faster. So a diet loaded with sugar can quite literally accelerate how fast your skin ages. And on top of that, those blood sugar and insulin spikes can drive up oil production and inflammation, which for a lot of people means more breakouts and worse acne. So if you've ever spent a fortune on skincare while drinking sugar all day, you were, in a sense, fighting yourself. Let's keep going, because we can't skip the most obvious victim of sugar, the one you meet with a toothbrush every morning, your teeth. Now, most people think sugar itself rots your teeth, but that's not quite it. The real culprit is the bacteria living in your mouth. They feast on the sugar you eat, and as they digest it, they produce acid. And that acid is what attacks the enamel, the hard, protective outer shell of your teeth. Every time you eat or drink something sugary, you're essentially setting off an acid attack that lasts for a while afterward. Do that constantly, sipping a sweet drink over hours, and your enamel barely gets a chance to recover. Over time, that acid wears through the enamel and creates cavities. It's one of the most common chronic diseases in the entire world, and it is driven overwhelmingly by sugar. And here's a connection almost nobody makes: your gut. Deep inside your intestines lives an entire universe of trillions of microorganisms, your gut microbiome. A healthy, diverse mix of these microbes helps you digest food, supports your immune system, and even influences your mood, as I hinted earlier. But a diet high in sugar and low in fiber can throw that whole ecosystem out of balance. It tends to feed the less helpful microbes and starve the beneficial ones. This imbalance can contribute to inflammation, digestive problems, and that constant, nagging craving for, you guessed it, more sugar. Because some of these microbes can actually influence your appetite, essentially demanding the very food that keeps them thriving. You might think you're the one making the choice to grab that candy. Sometimes, it's the passengers in your gut placing the order. Now let's tie a huge thread together, the one everybody actually worries about: weight. Because everything we've talked about feeds into this. The insulin, remember, is a fat storage hormone. When it's constantly high, your body is essentially locked in storage mode, holding onto fat rather than burning it. The blood sugar crashes drive relentless hunger and cravings, so you eat more often. And here's a sneaky one: sugary drinks in particular are packed with calories that your body barely registers. When you drink your calories in liquid form, you don't feel full the way you would from actual food. So you drink hundreds of calories and then eat a full meal on top of it as if those calories never happened. Multiply that by every day and the math becomes brutal. Sugar makes it easier to overeat, harder to feel full, and biologically primes your body to store fat instead of burning it. It's a triple hit. And I want to be really clear about something, because there's a lot of shame around this topic. If you've struggled with sugar, with cravings, with weight, this is not a moral failing. You are up against a food environment specifically engineered to hijack ancient survival instincts in your brain. Sugar is added to things you'd never expect: bread, pasta sauce, salad dressing, yogurt, health foods, savory snacks. It's often there precisely because it keeps you coming back. Understanding that isn't an excuse, it's power. Because once you understand the machine, you can start to step out of it. Which brings me to the part I promised, the part that actually matters most. Because it would be easy to end this video feeling hopeless. But here's the beautiful truth about the human body. It is astonishingly good at healing when you give it a chance. And the changes can start faster than you'd ever expect. When you significantly cut back on added sugar, here's a rough picture of what tends to unfold. In the first few days, honestly, it can be rough. Because remember that dopamine reward loop and those cravings when you pull the sugar? Your brain protests. You might feel tired, irritable, headachy. This is temporary. This is your body recalibrating. Push through it, and it passes. Within a week or two, many people notice their energy stabilizing. No more brutal afternoon crashes, because you've stepped off the blood sugar roller coaster. Your cravings start to quiet down as your taste buds recalibrate, and suddenly things you used to eat taste shockingly, almost unpleasantly sweet. That's a good sign. That's your palate healing. Over the following weeks and months, the deeper repairs begin. Your insulin sensitivity can start to improve, meaning your cells start answering the door again, taking pressure off your exhausted pancreas. Your liver, given a break from the constant flood of fructose, can begin to shed some of that stored fat. Your triglycerides can come down. Your blood pressure may ease. The chronic inflammation begins to cool. Your skin often clears and looks brighter. Many people report sharper focus and a more stable, steadier mood. And, yes, often, the weight starts to move, not because you're starving yourself, but because you finally let your body out of storage mode. None of this requires perfection. Let me say that again, because it matters. This is not about never enjoying anything sweet again for the rest of your life. A slice of birthday cake is not going to ruin you. The damage we talked about today comes from the daily, constant, background flood of sugar, the stuff hidden in your drinks, your snacks, your sauces, the stuff you consume without even noticing or enjoying. The goal isn't a joyless life. The goal is to take back control from a substance that has been quietly running the show. So here's what I gently challenge you to do, starting today. Don't try to overhaul everything at once. Just start by becoming aware. For the next few days, read the labels. Look at how many grams of added sugar are in the things you eat and drink without thinking. Pay special attention to what you drink, because liquid sugar is often the single biggest and sneakiest source. Swap one sugary drink for water or something unsweetened. Just one, to start. Notice how you feel a couple hours later when the crash that used to hit doesn't come. Because now you understand what's really happening under the surface. You understand the spike, the crash, the craving. You understand what your liver is doing, what insulin is doing, what's happening to your heart, your brain, your skin, your teeth, your gut. And that understanding changes everything because you can't be manipulated by a game whose rules you can finally see. Your body has been trying to talk to you this whole time. The afternoon slump, the cravings, the mood swings, the stubborn weight, that was all communication. And now, finally, you know how to listen. So the next time you reach for something sweet, you don't have to feel guilty and you don't have to swear off it forever. Just pause. Just be aware. Just ask yourself if this is a choice you're making or a choice being made for you. That small moment of awareness, repeated day after day, is where real change begins. So I have to ask, what's your sugar weakness? The one thing you know you couldn't give up easily. Drop it in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. And honestly, it makes the rest of us feel less alone. I'll go first. Mine's a cold soda on a hot day.